Live and direct from the free speech zone called America. The weekend home for truly radical progressives. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ.
Well, listeners. Looks like Radical Russ is on his way, but in the meantime, you got me, the superstar Steve Webb, as usual. We're having a couple of little connection difficulties here. I'm trying to get Russ to us as quickly as possible, but you see, this is what happens when I'm here in Washington, D.C., and Russ is happily chit-chatting away there in Portland, Oregon. We seem to have our little technical difficulties here. So while I try and get that fixed, why don't you enjoy listening to some of Russ's music?
Boogie down Route 66. Well, if you ever plan to motor west, take my way, that's the highway, that is the best. Keep your kicks out on Route 66. Well, it winds from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles along the way. Get your kicks out on Route 66. Winds to St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City, it sure looks pretty. You should see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, darling, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. Once you get hip to this kind of tip, when you take that California trip, get your kicks.
All right, listeners, here he is, the one you've been waiting for, the man, the myth, the legend. Better late than never, it's Radical Russ Belville.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the show here. Glad to have you here. Sorry about the technical difficulties. We were off last week, and somebody twisted our knobs. Somebody was in our Washington studio twisting knobs and pulling cords and
They
pushing
did.
buttons.
Now I'm going to have to go and find a doctor to sort this out. Can you believe that?
This is unbelievable. How, the treatment we get, you think they treat the weekend guys a little better, huh?
Seriously.
Well, Stevie, how you
Seriously.
doing, man?
Oh, considering I ain't doing too bad, Radical Russ. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Do
We
you
want to
know
welcome
what?
y'all
We-
here to the show, the Russ Belville Show, the home for truly radical progressives. We got plenty to talk about today. We're going to be covering all sorts of stuff, including the upcoming election. Is it over? Has McCain already lost it? We'll get your opinions at 888-7-RADICAL. Also, interesting thing here, I've noticed that the FBI is having trouble getting enough people to prosecute the financial crimes of all of these bailout recipients, so that'll be an interesting story. In our Lunatic Fringe today, you're going to learn about Obama's trip to Hawaii. You'll learn that Colin Powell is black. You'll learn that welfare bums shouldn't vote, and that John W. McCain's race-baiting campaign is officially over. But before we can get to all of that, like we do every day here at the Russ Belville Show, we know that you don't always have the time to catch up on all these stories. You work a full-time job for a living. You can't always catch up on the newspaper or the evening news. So at the top of the Russ Belville Show, I help you catch up on the week's hottest news topics with
The Week in 90 Seconds.
John W. McCain experiences the strangest bout of Tourette's syndrome ever.
And what you want to do to Joe the plumber, 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 Joe the plumber.
The big mean black guy who didn't steal Susan Smith's kids now didn't beat up a McCain volunteer. What won't big mean black guys not do?
A McCain campaign volunteer made up her story about being attacked near an ATM by a robber.
Sarah Palin looks marvelous trashing that elitist Obama in her $150,000 worth of designer clothing.
You look marvelous. Absolutely marvelous.
Former Secretary of State Colin Powell endorses Barack Obama.
He is a new generation, and for that reason, I'll be voting for Senator Barack Obama.
Congress considers shoveling more taxpayer money at the financial crisis.
Consideration of a fiscal package by the Congress at this juncture seems appropriate.
The FBI struggles to find enough agents to investigate all the financial crimes in this crisis.
Is this some kind of bust?
Yes, it's very impressive, but we'd just like to ask a few questions.
The Iraqi government can't decide on whether our troops should stay through the end of the year.
You got to let me know. Should I stay or should I go?
The Mormons pump millions into the anti-gay marriage Prop 8 campaign in California.
If I lived in California, I'd clearly vote against Prop 8.
And Radical Russ successfully survives 4 days at the Normal National Conference with his memory and freedom intact.
But isn't marijuana or dope illegal? Only for those who enjoy it. Medical use of marijuana is legal in this state.
Yeah, that's right, and that's where I was last weekend, in case you were wondering why there was a repeat. I was down in Berkeley, California, attending the 37th National Conference of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws, and learned plenty there that we'll be getting to later on in the show. One thing, though, I got to mention here before we get to that here is we got to welcome, and we had all our technical difficulties. I didn't get to officially welcome our favorite immigrant worker, the man from across the pond, all the way across the continent in Washington, D.C., a man who gets aggro if there's no bog roll in the loo, a well-chuffed git who'll fry up ladyfingers and swede in a chip pan for his dog's body, our good friend Stevie Lee on the boards.
Oh, thank you so much, Double R. Do you know what? I missed you last week. I did. It's like, that was the first Saturday where you've been off doing something and I've been off doing something as well. We had the lovely Tammy Cornelius sitting in for us, helping us with the best of, and I didn't know what to do with myself on Saturday.
That's crazy. You might have to watch some of that motorcycle courier ball.
Yeah, exactly. I just sat there and went, what's going on? What are they doing?
Messed up your whole weekend. Sorry about that.
Hey, it happens, man.
Hey, couple of things I want to get to here before we get to our next segment. Our next segment, of course, is the big story, and we're going to be talking about the election and McCain losing it and getting your opinions at 888-7-RADICAL. But I didn't want to leave before we talked about this story about Sarah Palin and her clothes. You've got that report in the Politico. You've probably heard about it already, that the Republican National Committee spent more than $150,000 to outfit Sarah Palin with fancy high-end clothes. They went to Saks Fifth Avenue, blew about $50,000. Went to where is it? Neiman Marcus, or as we like to call it, Needless Markup.
Yay.
About $75,000 there, $5,000 at Bloomingdale's, $300 at a baby shop. So this is just beautiful. This is just the beautiful hypocrisy of the Republican Party. They can't even hold it in anymore.
What kind of baby did she get?
For $300?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure. But this is the Republican hypocrisy just bursting out through the seams here. They've managed to keep it, closed in for a while, but now it's just becoming so patently obvious. Everything they say, my wife likes to say they're the opposite party. It's like the old Superman comics with Bizarro World. Whatever they say, it's the opposite. So if they're talking about Joe Sixpack, if they're talking about the average guy standing up for the average Joe the plumber, and then they're spending $150,000 on clothes, it's the opposite, right? I mean, first of all, in order for the average family, when we take the census averages, the average family, what it would take them to spend $150,000 on clothes, it would take them 80 years to spend $150,000. So pretty much lifetime. An American family in its lifetime isn't going to spend $150,000 on clothing. Or, thinking of Sarah Palin, we could look at it this way. It would buy 20,000 six-packs. You could get all your six-packs there. Or 50 snow machines for the first dude. You could buy 50 snow machines, although back in my day we used to call them snowmobiles. When did it not become snowmobiles? I didn't catch the memo on that one.
Now it's snow machine?
Yeah. And for the hockey moms out there, 2,500 hockey sticks. That's what you could get. So thank you, Sarah Palin, for your new clothes budget.
First off, I just want to say how excited I am to be in front of both the liberal elite media as well as the liberal regular media. I am looking forward to a portion of your questions.
That's right, a portion of the questions, and thank God for Tina Fey. This is Radical Russ here. We're at the Russ Belville Show, having some fun here on the weekend. We got a couple of shows before the election to go, so get your opinions in at 888-7-RADICAL. We're taking your calls right now. The lines are open. In our next segment, we're talking about John W. McCain and the election. Has he lost it? Is this thing over, or do you see dirty tricks and October surprises on the horizon? Let's talk about it. 888-7-RADICAL. We'll be right back.
THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world one light at a time.
Elitist. Just like any other dishwashing, burger flipping, public school educated, self-employed, bar band, musician, National Guardsman, he's Radical Russ.
Hey everyone, 22 after the hour. Welcome back to the show here. Glad to have you here. We're talking about the election coming up. We got 2 shows before the election, so I want to get as many calls as we can regarding the upcoming election. And what do you think? Is it going to be a landslide? It's beginning to look that way with the polls. Obama up by 10 in some polls, and you know, McCain just continuing to make gaffe after gaffe. So that's going to be our big story for the day.
Now it's time for the big story.
Oh my, what a big story you have.
Thanks. Now here's Radical Russ.
Of course, my favorite gaffe this weekend has been John McCain speaking in Western Pennsylvania. Representative Murtha had made a few comments about the people in Western Pennsylvania, saying that, you know, they were a little bit racist. They wouldn't vote for a white guy. And John McCain was trying to come out and say that he couldn't disagree more with that statement, but that's not how it came out. Just give a listen.
In case, I think you may have noticed that Senator Obama's supporters have been saying some pretty nasty things about Western Pennsylvania lately. And you know, I couldn't agree with them more. I couldn't disagree with you. I couldn't agree with you more than the fact that Western Pennsylvania is the most patriotic, most God-loving, most patriotic part of America. And this is a great part of the country.
I'm thirsty. Ooh, what smells like mustard? Sure, a lot of ugly people in your neighborhood. Oh, look at that one. Oh, my glaucoma just got worse. The president is a Democrat. No, I can't unbuckle my seatbelt.
Okay. That last part wasn't John McCain, but you know, it's getting harder and harder to tell these days.
Excellent.
Oh, boy. It's nonstop entertainment from the McCain campaign, such that it is. And, you know, it's really nice for once to see the Republican campaign be in disarray and a circular firing squad and off message and off topic and committing gaffes. You know, after all these years of Democratic campaigns where they've been caught on one gaffe or another, you know, if anything that we could say about this campaign of Barack Obama's is that it may be one of the best run political campaigns in the history of political campaigns. But let's get your opinions on this at 888-7-RADICAL. We're going to go to Manhattan, Kansas, and we have Lizzie on the line. Lizzie, welcome to the Russ Belville Show.
Hi.
How are you, Lizzie?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. What's your question? What's your topic?
I didn't have a question. I really had a comment. I was just listening to your show, and I heard you talking about the Palin wardrobe.
Yeah.
And not that I agree with the amount of money that was spent on her wardrobe at all, but I haven't heard the media mention at all how much Obama or McCain are wearing on their outfits. They're wearing $3,000 suits, and no one has brought up the cost of what their wardrobe is.
Okay, that's a good point, Lizzie, and that also speaks to something we saw throughout the campaign, especially when Hillary Clinton was running, a little bit of the sexism, where they'd always comment on oh, Hillary showed a little cleavage, or oh, Hillary dressed in this pantsuit or whatever, but nobody ever comments on the men who are running. I will note that there was a lot of the left-wing blogs that pointed out the expensive Italian loafers that John McCain was wearing at one particular event. I can't remember which one it was. I think what might be the difference, though, in this case, Lizzie, is that the suits that McCain or Obama or Biden own, they already own them. It wasn't like their campaigns came out and made a big purchase, on the campaigns tab for all their wardrobe. I don't have the exact data on that. Maybe they have, but it just seems like this Palin thing's a little beyond the pale. But you do have a good point there about, why don't we talk about what the men are wearing?
Right. Because it's going to turn a lot of women off, because it does feel like you're isolating her, not just you, but the media in particular. It's all over the news how much this woman happens to be wearing and how much her clothes were, and no one has mentioned the men.
Yeah.
And it seems very unfair
I
for
think we ought
the
to.
women.
I think we ought to be careful to make the emphasis being on the bad judgment of the Republican National Committee buying these clothes, not necessarily that it is Sarah Palin that had anything to do with it, or that she was the one that was in charge of this move. Again, I don't know about that either, but that's a really good point, and thank you, Lizzie. I appreciate that. Let's go out now to Salt Lake City. We've got Don waiting on the line. Don, welcome to the show.
Hey, Russ. On Sarah Palin and her clothes situation, I understand now this isn't verified information, so it could be just scuttlebutt. But understand that there's reporters that have gone to talk to the stores from where she bought all this clothing, and they can't find the people that sold it to them.
Oh, really?
It's an interesting twist that it's possible that it's not clothing they were buying; it was for something else.
I don't know. We have to look a little deeper on that. So much stuff flies around the internet. It's hard to tell what's valid anymore. What I thought was interesting that I read about this $150,000 clothing spree is that, she needs to claim that on her taxes. There'll be about $50,000 worth of taxes to pay, but now the RNC is saying, no, they were just donated and we're going to give them to charity afterwards. I think this needs a little more scrutiny, especially if throwing around, people's hard-earned money in these hard economic times. I don't think the Republicans that contributed to the campaign were necessarily wanting to buy stuff at Neiman Marcus.
And back to your last caller, it would be hard to believe that you could spend a house worth of money on clothing for a couple of guys in their suits. But I mean, I guess it's possible, but it's really not what so much they're wearing is what's the amount that's spent.
Yeah,
on
that's
what
true. Yeah, that's what I think too. Is the amount that's spent, and it is an unlevel playing field, just because men's fashions are pretty standard and standard priced, and then women's fashions get those really, really high prices. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. It's an interesting topic. Thank you, Don, for your call. I appreciate that. Coming up here in our next segment, we're going to get more of your calls here, and also I want to tell you a little story about the financial crisis and what's happening with that. So stay tuned for that. Our phone number here is 888-7-RADICAL. Our email address is radicalruss@gmail.com. Stick around. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Sweater, there's no better than authentic Irish setter. See this hat, 'twas my cat, my evening wear, vampire bat. These white slippers are albino, African endangered rhino, grizzly bear underwear, turtles' necks, I've got my share. Beret of poodle on my noodle HL wrist. Try my red robin suit, it comes one breast or two. See my vest, see my vest, see my vest.
This is the Russ Belville Show. Not some pot legalizing, tax hiking, government expanding, latte drinking, sushi eating, Volvo driving, New York Times reading, body piercing, Hollywood loving, left wing freak show. He drives a Jeep.
Welcome back, everyone. 35 after the hour here at the home for truly radical progressives, where we're taking your calls at 888-7-RADICAL. Let's turn things over to the good and wise people of North America and hear your voices. Stand up together and fight the power. Let our leaders know how we feel. All right, we're going to give the people what they want, and I seem to have opened up a can of worms here with this Sarah Palin clothing controversy. $150,000 at Neiman Marcus and Saks Fifth Avenue and all these other high-end clothing companies. $150,000. An American family, the average American family would take 80 years to spend that much on clothes. We're going to get your opinions on it here at 888-7-RADICAL. We're going to go first to Robert in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Robert, welcome to the show.
Yeah, hey, you there?
I'm great, Robert. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, I think it's pretty extravagant, but, that's how those folks live. McCain's wife, a $300,000 outfit between her jewelry and clothing to one of his campaign events, or maybe it was to the convention.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how they live, so that's what they're used to, But I did read an article that said that Obama resold his shoes, and unfortunately I can't cite the source, but I did read that article and thought it would be pretty interesting to compare. And I think your previous caller stating that, we should compare the men's wardrobe, finances to the women's is probably pretty true before we, go on the attack. But once we do, I think it's fair game because it is pretty extravagant to spend that kind of money.
I think you're right. I brought up the point of McCain wearing the $500 Italian loafers, and then I think what you're referring to, I think the article also had a picture. I think I saw that picture where Obama's got his feet up on the desk, and you can see the soles of his shoes are worn out. Is that the one?
I didn't see that picture, but there was some made mention of, his shoes having holes in them and alliterating to the resoling and so forth.
Oh, yeah. And then, the other thing I'd heard, too, is that, Joe Biden had come out and said, I buy all my own suits. I wear my own suits. I mean, Joe Biden's a guy, this is the amazing thing about this campaign to me, is, you got the beer heiress, Cindy McCain, worth hundreds of millions of dollars, 9-figure, net worth, and John McCain. These guys got, 11 houses, 13 cars, 9 houses, whatever it was, and the expensive clothing and all of that, running against, the guy, Barack Obama, who grew up with a single mom on food stamps, resoles his own shoes, Joe Biden, who takes the train to work and buys his own suits, and they called them the elitists. That's the amazing thing. And it's worked so many times for the Republican Party in the past. I can't blame them for trying it, playing the elitist card and trying to play the opposite game here. But I think the American people have finally figured it out. They've finally figured it out that these guys are liars. They are lying to you. They are lying to you. They are not the salt of the earth. They are not Joe Sixpack. They are not looking out for Joe the plumber. Like you said, Robert, that's the kind of people they are. That's the lifestyle they lead, and they want to continue to make life good for that upper 1%. Thank you for your call. I appreciate that. Let's get another one here. We're going to go out to, well, this is confusing. We're going to go to Montana, California. Is that right? And speak with Honor. Are you there?
Yeah. Close
Montana,
enough.
California.
Montana.
Did I get that right?
There's two things, actually. One is relative to what you were just saying. I think a lot when they say elitist, it's one of those code things. They don't really mean, oh, you've got so much money. They mean, oh, you think you're so smart, because they can't stand that we're smarter than they are.
Yeah.
But I think the $150,000 on clothes is kind of burying the lead. I mean, it's campaign funds. It may be a crummy way to spend campaign funds. We'd like it if our candidates were successful enough in the private sector to buy that stuff themselves. But I think the point, and you can Google this. I'm not at a computer right now, so I don't remember the exact numbers. But there was something that came out at the same time about her spending a little over $20,000 on travel and entertainment for her kids, and billing that to the Alaskan taxpayers. And I think hitting her on that with the I'm a reformer maverick girl is so much more potent than saying, and my rich friends bought me clothes.
Okay. Yeah, Gosh, attacking Sarah Palin, there's just so many places to start. What are we going to start with? But yeah, I heard that same deal about her, billing the travel for her kids, the entertainment for her kids. There was that controversy about her billing per diem from working from her own home in Wasilla. So yeah, there's a whole lot of financial scandal and trouble in that side of the aisle there, and the clothing thing is maybe, like you say, bearing the lead, or maybe just the tip of the iceberg.
Yep. All right, thanks.
Thank you so much, Honor. That's a very good point. Yeah, the phone number here is 888-7-RADICAL if you're interested in getting your opinions in here on this clothing controversy, the McCain campaign, the election. We're just kind of talking all right now. And I wanted to bring up something here that I had found through the news wires. Recently, just this week, Representative Henry Waxman, the mustache of justice, has been holding his oversight hearings on this whole financial crisis. And he had Christopher Cox, SEC chairman, and Alan Greenspan, the former Fed chairman, testifying in front of him there. And it was remarkable. And this didn't get a whole lot of, it got some play in the media, but, this whole clothing thing kind of took over. But this was just amazing because Henry Waxman basically broke it down. If you've never seen Henry Waxman in a hearing, if you're a C-SPAN junkie like me, you live for those days, because he's one of the few congressmen, one of the few elected officials here that really, really holds people's feet to the fire. So he was interviewing Alan Greenspan here, trying to ask him about this problem, and didn't you see it coming? Why didn't you see this coming? And could it have been that it was your basic financial philosophy that was the problem? This whole trickle-down idea, this idea that the markets can regulate themselves, the free market, the invisible hand of the marketplace, Adam Smith, all that wherewithal. And so they cornered him. Basically Waxman cornered him and said, was your basic philosophy an error? And this is what Greenspan had to say.
Well, where do you think you made a mistake then?
I made a mistake in presuming that the self-interest of organizations, specifically banks and others, was such as that they were best capable of protecting their own shareholders and the equity in the firms.
So basically, Alan Greenspan, this financial wizard, this guy who's been there, 2 decades as the Fed chairman, supposedly the Wizard of Wall Street, knows all this great stuff. He couldn't get past his brain here the idea that maybe, just maybe, really rich people with really rich companies might do things in their own best interests that weren't in the best interests of all the rest of us little people. Somehow he just made that mistake. Somehow just slipped his mind, had no idea that I'm shocked. Do you hear? I'm shocked to hear that there'd be greed and corruption in the highest levels of our financial capitals. Amazing. And also when they were interviewing Christopher Cox, the SEC chairman, same basic mea culpa.
Like each of you, I've asked myself what I would do differently with the benefit of hindsight. There are several things. Most importantly, we've learned that voluntary regulation of financial conglomerates does not work.
Really?
Neither the SEC nor any regulator has the statutory authority to regulate investment bank holding companies except on a voluntary basis, and that must be fixed.
Yeah, you'd think it should be fixed. If only we had a serious financial decline in our recent past that we could look back to. If only there was an episode in American history where the rich got richer and the gap between the rich and poor was exacerbated and the top 1% controlled way, way too much wealth. If only we could look back in history to a point in time where a similar thing like this had happened and collapsed the entire nation's economy. And if only we had learned that lesson from that collapse and created some regulations and some stopgap measures to prevent this from ever happening again. If only, oh yeah, the Great Depression. This did happen before. It is in our recent past. All we had to do is go ask anyone over the age of 70, John W. McCain, about the Great Depression and what happened after it and how we had to get out of that situation. We would have realized that we had to keep those regulations in place. But no, the Reaganomics people came up in the 80s and said, no, regulations are bad. Everything's different now. It's completely different. Let the market decide. Greed is good. We'll help everybody. Trickle down. Give to the people who make the wealth, and they'll create jobs for everybody. How's that working out for you? I'm Radical Russ. We're going to be right back with our Lunatic Fringe Awards. All sorts of fun stuff in the Lunatic Fringe, so stick around. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world, one light at a time.
Russ Belville Show. Not ashamed of his real last name. Got it, Michael Savage?
Yeah, not afraid of my real last name. Not at all. Just as long as you spell it correctly. I'm one of those rare 3L Belvilles. Glad to have you here. It is the last segment of our first hour, and that can only mean one thing. Now it's time for our weekly roundup of the right wing's altered reality. From the Guano Loco neocon chicken hawks to the hypocritical American Taliban and the cable news punditocracy, the Russ Belville Show presents the Lunatic Fringe Award, an award dedicated to the politician, pundit, or preacher who said the most ignorant, hateful, or bizarre quote of the week. Oh, and this week, it's so much fun. This week we got some fun ones, Stevie. Oh, I'm telling you. We've got, the Republicans here, they're going down hard. They know this election is just about over, that they've really messed it up this time, and there's not much hope. So watching them fall upon each other and eat their own and form a circular firing squad, it's just beauty to me. I love it. So starting with this first segment here, this first clip, Barack Obama, recently his grandmother fell ill, and she lives in Hawaii. She's unable to travel. So Obama decided to get on a plane and head out there to Hawaii to be beside his grandmother, right? Sick grandma, you figure, all right, there's a nothing story, right? That's what anybody would do, go see their sick grandma, right? Not to the right wing. No. The right wing doesn't see it that way. In fact, they've got a specific sort of tinfoil hat idea here, conspiracy theory. I'll just have to play it for you here. First of all, here's Rush Limbaugh worrying about the Hawaii trip.
Yeah, by the way, I'd like to be a little bit more inquisitive than the average reporter out there and observe that we've been hearing and reading for at least 3 days now that Obama's grandmother is deathly ill and that he's going to rush to her side in Hawaii. Now, if he's already won the presidency, why hasn't he already gone to Hawaii? Why is he not already there? What's he waiting for?
Okay, so there's a mystery. Why hasn't he gone to Hawaii? Michael Savage?
We're going to raise the question of why is Obama headed to Hawaii? He certainly wouldn't take the time out to visit an ailing grandmother all of a sudden.
Oh, no.
Do you actually believe he's going to Hawaii to visit his ailing grandmother with 10 days to go to an election?
Yes.
Do you actually believe that?
Yes.
Do you actually believe he'd be going to Hawaii at this time?
Yes.
With 10 days to go?
Yes.
You actually believe that?
Yes.
No.
Oh.
No.
Yes.
No.
No.
Yes.
Okay.
There's some other reason that he's leaving the mainland of the United States in the midst of this toe-to-toe struggle.
Okay, what could it be? One more. This is from G. Gordon Liddy's show, Jerome Corsi.
Well, Mr. Liddy, I'm headed out to Honolulu. I'm not convinced that Barack Obama is going because his grandmother is sick. I appreciate that his grandmother's sick and he wants to be with her. I do recall that Barack Obama's mother died of cancer, and he didn't go to be beat by her side when she died. He relates that in his autobiography, Dreams for My Father.
Okay, so there's a lot of question here on the right wing. Why is Obama go to Hawaii? It couldn't possibly be because his grandmother's sick. What could it be?
There are people arguing that Obama is headed to Hawaii not so much to visit an ailing relative, but to fudge the birth certificate in question.
I don't know. Let's say, for example, that somebody does come up with proof that Obama's something screwy with his birth certificate and something screwy about the fact that he's allegedly a natural citizen, American citizen, but may not be, dual citizenship, born in Kenya. Who knows? There's all kinds of...
And I'm going out to do what digging I can on the birth certificate. I'll be in Honolulu for the next few days. Obama's headed out there, and I believe there's a court challenge that if Obama does not dodge, he's going to be forced to produce a birth certificate. And there's got to be something damaging on that birth certificate.
So that's the big tinfoil hat theory from the Republicans here, is that Barack Obama couldn't possibly be going to Hawaii to visit his sick grandma. He's there to take care of the tricky question of his birth certificate.
Yes, because he's actually from Mars.
Yeah, because,
space.
The Democratic Party, after having, 20 months worth of 20 months worth of primaries and all the 20 or so on debates that they had in the Democratic primary, and then getting the nomination, and then campaigning against John W. McCain. And after these 20, 21, 22 months, all of a sudden, the Obama campaign realizes, oh, snap, we forgot to take care of that birth certificate thing. Really? Really? That's what you're going for? Snap! Really? That's your defense? Is that somehow the Democratic Party wouldn't stop to vet Barack Obama to test to see if he really is a natural-born American citizen so that he is constitutionally able to take the office of president. They wouldn't think to check that. This is ultra desperation on the Republican side, and it just entertains me to no end. But we got a double shot here. I'm going to give you a double shot. This is some more Michael Savage. Speaking up on the voting franchise and who should be allowed to vote in this country.
Do you think a person on welfare has the right to vote? I don't. Why should a person who is on public assistance maintain the right to vote? Tell me why. Where is it written that they should have the right to vote?
I think it's written in a little thing called the Constitution. One of these amendments in there says something about all citizens 18 years and older are allowed to vote, regardless if they have jobs, regardless if they have homes. If you're an American, you're allowed to vote. Can you believe the anti-American stuff that goes across on this guy's airwaves? Saying that certain people in our country, American citizens that are down and out, don't have the right to vote? That's unbelievable. But here's one that's more unbelievable. I played you earlier Colin Powell endorsing Barack Obama for president, and the right wing now is who loved Colin Powell when he was in the Bush administration and loved him and couldn't wait to show how they have a black man in the administration. Well, now they're saying that Powell is only endorsing him because he's black, and this is Quinn and Rose, the duo on the talk radio discussing it.
I think when you told me this yesterday, I said to you, Jim, he doesn't want to be known as an Uncle Tom anymore. He wants to be black again.
Remember when he was in the Bush administration, he was a white guy.
Yep.
He was a
blacks
white
hated
guy.
him. He doesn't count. It doesn't count that you have someone black in the administration. He's not really black. He's an Uncle Tom.
Look, you could be very right here. He's tired of being called an Oreo.
Uncle Tom, Oreo. God, I love it when right-wingers throw around racial epithets. That's a beautiful thing. But they're not my winners today. I have a winner, a first-time winner who's not an audio clip. This goes out to the Republican Party. Actually, Fox Executive Vice President John Moody, who posted on that hoax about Ashley Todd, the woman who scratched the reverse B into her face and said a black man beat her up because she was a Obama supporter. He wrote that if Miss Todd's allegations are proven accurate, some voters may revisit their support for Senator Obama, not because they are racist, but because they suddenly feel they do not know enough about the Democratic nominee. If the incident turns out to be a hoax, which it has, Senator McCain's quest for the presidency is over, forever linked to race baiting. So John Moody of Fox News for declaring McCain's quest over, and Ashley Todd for personifying the toxic brew of hate and stupidity at a typical McCain rally, you are the winner of the Lunatic Fringe Award. But they're not out there for long. We're going to defeat them at the ballot box. This is the Russ Belville Show. We're back right after the news. Stick around.
Su día ya viene llegando.
live and direct from the free speech zone called America. The weekend home for truly radical progressives. Now, here's your host, Radical Russ.
Good day, everybody, and welcome to the Russ Belville Show. I am Radical Russ. Glad to have you here on this weekend for hour 2 of our show. We got 5 hours of show and 2 hours to get it in, but we'll get in as much as we can. We're also taking your calls here at 888-7-RADICAL if you'd like to talk about the events of the day, the election, Sarah Palin's clothes, whatever you want to talk about, financial bailout. We're here to talk about it. 888-7-RADICAL. And, of course, as always, joining us from across the continent, the man from across the pond, our favorite immigrant worker, a man who gets aggro if there's no bog roll in the loo, a well-chuffed git who will fry up lady fingers and swede in a chip pan for his dog's body. It's our good friend Stevie Webb.
Oh, that sounds delicious. It really
lady
does.
Fingers
Ladies'
and swede.
fingers and swede, all fried up in a chip pan. But I got to tell you, after that, I am going to desperately need some bog roll in the loo.
You'll definitely need some bog roll in the loo, yes.
And
absolutely.
I just have to say, apart from that, I really missed you last week, Russ. I really did.
Well, I missed
really
y'all
did.
too, but I got to tell a little bit of a story here before we get to the calls. Last weekend I was
let me
in...
do one quick thing before
yeah.
we do the calls. This is kind of important. It's my wife's birthday.
Oh, yay! Happy
Yay!
birthday.
Happy birthday, Annie. This is going out across. This is my present to you because I've been too busy to actually go buy one. Which is no, that's a lie. I got her all sorts of lovely things, mainly because I am working so much that I never get to see the poor love. So happy birthday, Annie. Love you lots.
Aww.
So that was really awful, wasn't it?
Oh, that feels so good. No, it's a beautiful thing. Happy birthday to you. And my little story here, last weekend I was gone to Berkeley, California. I was attending the 37th annual conference for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. And part of this conference that was so cool was the fact that, and maybe a lot of people in the country don't know this, but there's a region of Oakland, California called Oaksterdam. And this Oaksterdam area is one of the areas where they have those medical marijuana dispensaries. Like, you probably know that they have those in California. And they're pretty popular. There's, hundreds of them now. And, of course, they're legal, quasi-legal under state law and completely illegal under federal law. But my point here is that for this conference, we got to take a tour of this Oaksterdam area. And they pull up in a limo. They got this big old Oaksterdam long stretch limo. So I'm feeling pretty cool. Like, all right, I can get in this limo. That'll be kind of neat, right? So I get in the limo, and this is Saturday afternoon. I get in the limo, and we're headed down the freeway into Oakland. When I look up, and there's a radio right up there, and I said, "Oh, cool. Can we turn on some tunes?" He goes, "Yeah, we got XM satellite." And I went, "Really? Okay." So we flipped over to XM satellite channel 167, and sure enough, yours truly, my repeated show from last weekend is on the radio in the limo while I'm sitting in it. And I might mention with a couple of ladies from New Jersey who were very nice.
Oh my goodness!
Well, just nice people, yes.
Russ,
and so,
you just became my ultimate hero.
I know. I'm sitting there like Mr. Celebrity. Hey,
He's
there's
the
my show on the radio.
pimp of the year.
No, riding in the limo and everything. So now my hats don't fit because I got a little bit of a big head from that. But it was a lot of fun down at that conference. Now, speaking of that, I did want to bring something up regarding our economy. Everybody's talking about the economy and the roller coaster that is Wall Street these days and the bailouts and all that stuff. And there's some scary stuff that's going on with this that I thought my listeners ought to know. First of all, the FBI is in charge of investigating all of these big financial giants that have wrecked our economy and also, been the recipients of these billion-dollar bailouts, right? Well, I was just reading the other day how the FBI is having trouble coming up with enough agents to prosecute all the crimes. That's right. They're investigating Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're also investigating AIG and Lehman Brothers, and the FBI has opened more than 1,500, 1,500 other mortgage-related investigations. Now, they wanted to double the number of agents to work on these financial crimes, but they don't have the people. They don't have the manpower to investigate all the white-collar financial crimes. Now, this was not unseen by the FBI. The FBI, for years, since about 2003 and 2004, began making requests of the Bush administration for more money to replenish the ranks of their agents that aren't handling terrorism cases, right? They've been they're getting all the funds they need to handle the terrorism. They need more of these financial forensic type expert agents. And all the way back to 2003, they're asking the Bush administration for it. And of course, the requests were all denied. They focused all of the efforts on counterterrorism. And in fact, this is not, something that's strange for the Bush administration. They've always been on the side of the rich man. In 2006, they got rid of half of the estate tax lawyers on the IRS, right? Estate tax, rich folks, checking up on rich folks' tax returns. Got rid of half of the lawyers at the IRS to check up on that stuff. And in 2007, the Justice Department and the White House did not replace over 2,400 agents who were working on white-collar cases that were transferred to counterterrorism. So they take the agents away from the IRS to check up on the rich folks. They take the agents out of the FBI that are working on white-collar cases and put them over on counterterrorism and do not replace them. You might think, perhaps, if you were a cynical person, that they don't want white-collar crime investigated, that they don't want all their friends going to jail and doing perp walks and having to be accountable to the American people. You might think that, perhaps. But, isn't it strange how whenever there's an allegation of voter fraud, which, isn't voter fraud, it's voter registration fraud, but whatever, anytime there's an allegation of that, there's plenty of people. We got plenty of manpower to take care of that. Plenty of manpower. Well, this is starting to hurt the American people. This is a big problem. We've got to hold these people accountable or they're just going to do it again. And meanwhile, our states are now headed into recession. The chief economist for Moody's, moody'seconomy.com, said back in March that 5 states were in recession, Arizona, California, Florida, Michigan, and Nevada. Now he says this week that 27 states are officially in recession and another 14 are near recession. Okay, so the states are going broke. Now, what effect does this have on you and me? Well, I got this story out of CNN. U.S. police departments are facing cuts due to the economy. Police departments are streamlining their patrols, reducing training, and cutting back on preventative programs. They did a poll of 200 police departments and found that 39% said their operating budgets have been cut because of the economy, and 43% had said that their faltering economy has affected their ability to deliver services. Some examples. The police chief in Naperville, Illinois, says there's going to be less police visibility and we need more community cooperation to keep the crime rate low. The Virginia State Police has a new class of cadets with 27 open positions. Plano, Texas, 13 open positions. Montgomery County, Maryland, 11 open positions. In Lincoln, Nebraska, they are not responding anymore to some medical emergencies and non-injury motorcycle accidents. The Phoenix Police Department says they may have to cut 250 jobs. So, do you think maybe that crime might go up a little with this lack of police presence due to these greedy bastards out on Wall Street and the lack of regulation and the Washington insiders that help to keep the regulations off their back is going to affect us directly in the case of crime. The other place this is starting to affect people is in the place of healthcare. We've got people that are going without their medication. Pfizer, the pharmaceutical company, just pointed out that their drug Lipitor, the anti-cholesterol medication, the #1 selling prescription medicine in the world, their sales were down 13%. Why? Because people are skipping their drugs. They're going every other day. They're taking a half of a pill. They can't afford their prescription medication. The choices these days are rent, gas, and medicine. And they're having to make that tough choice, and a lot of them are going without their medicine. So, while all of this is happening, and all of our economies in the states are going down the toilet, and people are suffering, and police department budgets are being slashed, and healthcare, we're losing the money for healthcare, I hear all these politicians talking about we need to cut government waste, we need to cut government waste. Never do any of them bring up the Defense Department. Have you heard I'm even talking Barack Obama here, have you heard any of these politicians talking about slashing the bloated Pentagon budget? You realize that the United States of America spends on its defense budget as much as the entire world combined. I'll say that again. The United States spends on its defense budget as much as every other nation in the world combined. Now, if that doesn't freak you out a little, think of this. If the United States were to cut its military budget in half, it would still spend more than most of the nations in the world combined. You don't think there's some fat we could trim out of our defense budget? Maybe just a little, so we could pay for some cops on our streets, so we could pay for people in the emergency rooms to get some health, so that we could pay for some damn health insurance for our people. Another place you're not going to hear them talking about cutting, the war on drugs. This ineffective, stupid, ridiculous war on drugs. My state, Oregon, spends $61.5 million every year just on enforcing marijuana laws. It's time to rethink all of these government programs that do not work. I'm Radical Russ. When we come back from the break, we are going to be talking to a very special person in New Mexico. I'll bring that story to you in our next segment. Stick around.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others, changing the world, one light at a time.
America's R7 secret agent of progressive change.
The name's Belville. Russ Belville.
This is the Russ Belville Show.
Welcome back, everybody. 22 after the hour. We were going to go to our interview. We're having a little bit of phone difficulties. Yeah, I know. We're having a little technical day today, but we'll have our interview on in the next segment, so stay tuned for that.
Cheneyed.
Yeah, we've been cheneyed, yeah. The interview is with a woman in New Mexico, and her name is Bobby Wooten, and she is a woman who is paralyzed from the waist down and lives her life in a wheelchair, and she got evicted from her apartment with a 3-day eviction notice. And I'm going to tell you the story of that and interview her in the next segment, so you can stay tuned for that. But going back to what we were talking about in the last segment, talking about this financial crisis and some of the ways that it's affecting people in our country. You know, I talked about the health care and how people are cutting back on their health care. They're skipping their pills, they're taking half pills, and so on. And there's a lot of concern about this in the healthcare industry because, you know, if you don't take your regular prescriptions, that can lead to a much bigger problem later on. And then those much bigger problems are much more expensive, not just to you, but to the entire society. So, you know, it's one of those old pay me now or pay me later kind of things. And with people cutting back on their health care, all of us are going to end up paying a lot more later. But I found this other story that I thought was interesting. And this just goes to speak to the U.S. healthcare system. You know, all the time I hear when we talk about healthcare, and especially lately at the McCain rallies, they've been saying, you know, Obama's a socialist. He's a socialist. I always just want to, you know, yell back at him. You don't know what that word means. You know, we have all sorts of socialist things in this country. We have a socialist police department. We have a socialist fire department. We have socialist schools. You know, there's all sorts of socialism in our country. People here, I think one of their problems is they confuse socialism with communism and totalitarianism, right? They figure that, you know, they're all one and the same, and that somehow socialist is the opposite of American, right? Well, what they don't understand is there's all sorts of socialist countries out there that are democratic. You know, Sweden, you know, democratic socialist type of country, right? You can have democracy and have bits of socialism mixed in. Now, I'm not a full-on socialist by any means. I love capitalism. I think there's all sorts of places where capitalism is grand. It's wonderful. It's the best engine for economic growth and sustainability for the most people most of the time compared to any other economic engine that's ever been built. However, I do have my limits. I believe that socialism is appropriate in a market situation where we don't have a choice, right? The whole idea of market capitalism is this idea that if you don't like the price one guy sets, you can go visit another guy. If you're not getting good enough service from this company, you can go visit that company. If the prices are too high there, you can go shop over there, right? And all that competition is what's supposed to bring the prices down and make things good for everyone. But it doesn't work so well when we're talking about a product or a service that you don't have much choice over. You know, if you need health care, and, you know, you're bleeding, now is not the time to be negotiating prices, right? You pull into the ER, you know, how much is it going to cost to fix this gash? Oh, you know, $400. Oh, I can't afford that. Let me go somewhere else. That's not the way it works, right? So in situations where there is, you know, a captive audience and a monopoly over a product or a service, that's where I believe socialism has its merits. You know, healthcare, energy to some extent, housing, and so on. Anyway, didn't want to go too far on the philosophical edge of this. I just want to talk about this woman that I read this story in the paper. I forget which one. This one came out of Dallas, though. And she was in Dallas Parkland Memorial Hospital, and she had broken her leg. She was playing volleyball. That young woman broke her leg playing volleyball and went to the emergency department. And she waited in that emergency department for 19 hours with a broken leg. 19 hours with a broken leg, right? And after that 19 hours, was never seen, right? No doctor came to set the leg. No one came to give her any painkillers or anything like that. And after sitting there for 19 hours, finally she says, well, I'm through waiting. I can't take this anymore. I'm going to go home. So she goes home, right? You know, I didn't get my service. She puts her legs up. She splints it herself. And a couple weeks later, she gets the bill. The emergency room billed her $162 for sitting in the room for 19 hours getting no treatment whatsoever. Yeah, that's the American healthcare system. And the excuse they have, the hospital's vice president in charge of billing, Rick Ryan, said she's not paying for waiting. She's paying for the assessment she received. Now, the assessment is that she went into the emergency room, a nurse took her vital signs and got her a place in line. That's $162. Take your blood pressure, take your temperature, give you a place in line, $162. Now, she was one of 5 patients that left, that day. And also, they found that some other people had visited this hospital. They had a 58-year-old man who'd checked in for stomach pains. He waited for 19 hours and then suffered a cardiac arrest. This guy died while his family members were looking on. This is the American healthcare system. So when they come out to you and they say, oh, you don't want socialized medicine, you don't want to wait in a line like in Canada, well, 19 hours, how much longer do you want us to wait? Come on. We got to do something to fix our healthcare. That has got to be a primary goal of the upcoming Obama-Biden administration. We have got to do something about healthcare. People are dying out there. And again, it costs us all even more. If we don't help these people out. So I want everyone to note that, and also to keep in mind that this is a direct result of the Republican policies of the last almost 20, 30 years now, is this lack of care about the people. Let's start caring about the people. That's what we're going to do here at the Russ Belville Show. All right, when we come back from the break, I've got my interview with Bobby Wooten. She's on the line now waiting, and so we'll get to that interview right after this break. Thanks for listening. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Touch that dial. We're right back to Radical Russ in just a few minutes. Hey, does anybody really have a dial anymore? You're listening to the Russ Belville Show. Radical Russ, your red state refugee. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Hey, everybody, 35 after the hour. Oh, no. Yes, today we're going to expand our Marijuana Minute to a full segment because I've got a special guest for you today. Bobby Wooten is a registered medical marijuana patient in Silver City, New Mexico. Now, New Mexico is one of the 12 U.S. states that allows seriously ill and disabled patients to grow and use cannabis to treat their conditions. She was injured years ago in a car accident that left her in a wheelchair, paralyzed from the waist down, and uses medical marijuana legally to control her pain and severe muscle spasms. Bobby's case got national attention this week as her landlord, David Coton of KK Realty, gave her a 3-day eviction notice for growing 2 medical marijuana plants, half of what she's allowed by law, in her apartment. Bobby joins us by telephone from New Mexico. And Bobby, thank you, and welcome to the Russ Belville Show.
Thank you.
Now, I understand you've been doing a whole lot of interviews regarding your situation. Who have you talked to so far?
Every TV station locally. I have a number of attorneys calling to help me. The ACLU called. They're joining my attorney and helping along with several other prominent lawyers.
Well, that's
so. I have more legal, protection. But somebody's trying to call. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. More than I need.
Well, that's.
I had no idea the story would be nationwide.
Well, that's really good to hear.
I'm overwhelmed at the amount of support that I've received locally and from people in other states. A man from Bozeman, Montana, called me this morning to tell me that there are a large number of people there that are pulling for me. And I hope this helps as many people as possible.
Well, let's tell the people about your story. Basically, the recap here is that you lived in an apartment complex and you are a registered medical marijuana patient in the state of New Mexico. How long have you lived in that complex, by the way?
I have lived here for 6.5 years.
Okay, so you've never had any problems before this?
And no, I've never broken a law, and in fact, I feel that I was set up, basically.
Yeah. So the situation here is this, that you are a medical marijuana patient. You had a car accident in the past that left you paralyzed from the waist down. You're in a wheelchair, so there's not a whole lot of places in your small town where you could possibly live that are wheelchair accessible, right?
That's correct.
And so they did a surprise apartment inspection. Is this a regular thing they do, these surprise?
Well, what it was is they got mad over an article I ran a few weeks ago on the recycle bins. I'm passionate about recycling.
Oh, that's good.
And, I won't go into that story, but it was a direct retaliation of that. I've had the plants in my house for months and months. The manager of these apartments, Tashonda Gaines, has entered my unit to inspect it several times over the past year and has said nothing. And I've made no attempt to hide it.
Okay.
Then a representative of the KK Realty Corporation out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Every now and then they come here and they pick 20% of all of the units here to inspect. And I have never been chosen in 6.5 years. My neighbor hasn't been chosen in 7. My daughter's lived here for 3. She has never been chosen randomly. And all of a sudden, both of our names come up, mine and my daughter's name.
Okay.
Coincidence? I think not.
Yeah.
So then he comes in here. He's only here like 3 minutes. He shakes my hand, walks out. Then a maintenance man comes to my door and delivers me a letter that says that I have 3 days to get out of here, that there was a controlled substance found in my apartment. So I called the manager, and I asked her, I said, what would you like for me to do with this letter? And she said, well, did you read it? And I said, well, of course I read it. I have a license. And she said, oh, you do? And then she put her mother on the phone because...
Okay.
She's a box of rocks. She can't tell us anything. But anyways,
okay.
I told her mother, and her mother sent someone over to get my license. She made a copy of it, and then she called me back and told me that she's standing by the 3-day eviction until she heard from her lawyers.
Uh-huh.
Okay? So I called the DA's office, which referred me to the Silver City Police. I had an officer come over here. He looked at my license and my plants. He said that they couldn't prosecute me, and that basically the eviction notice wasn't worth the paper it was written on.
Uh-huh.
He had no right to do that, that they didn't. They were avoiding him. I also notified Mr. Sam Kahn of the Sun News. He came, and they also avoided him as well. Then I was told to contact Magistrate Judge Ron Hall, which I did. The secretary had a little mini-conference with him and said that he couldn't speak to me because if this went to court, he would have to have both parties present.
Right.
Yeah, right. So I was at my wit's end. I called a friend who's in the FBI.
Wow.
I know. It's a little ironic, isn't it? But he gave me a name of a really good guy here, a lawyer. Mr. Tom Stewart, and he's helping me. He took my case.
That's good.
And said that I didn't have to start packing my bags.
That's nice to know.
I know. So I was grateful for. And then after this story ran in the Sun News, I guess it was picked up by the Associated Press.
It was.
Went nationwide. And
well,
like I said, I was totally surprised that.
This is not a Bobby, this is not a rare story by any means. I'm calling you from Portland, Oregon, where we have a medical marijuana program here that allows patients to have up to 24 plants, and I probably have 24 stories of people who have been evicted from either their federal Section 8 housing or from a particular apartment complex that just didn't like what they were doing. And it seems to me the sticking point that always happens is in these leases, they'll have a part that says, the leasee will comply with all federal laws. And since marijuana is not legal federally, that's where they kind of hang you up. Do you know if that's what's going on with your lease? Does your lease have a specific federal law?
They were trying to find a loophole in the lease.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that this is a drug-free apartment complex, and I'm not on HUD.
Right.
And basically what they did is they came up with the new rules and regulations and stuck them in my door yesterday, and they want all tenants to sign in new rules and regulations.
Ah.
Yes.
Now, these new rules, do they say something specifically about medical?
They changed, to cover, it's a CYA, to put it that way. Basically, it says that no tenant is allowed to have a non-prescription controlled substance in their unit.
And that non-prescription's the trick there.
Right. Mm-hmm. And in New Mexico, you don't have to have a prescription. In California, you do.
Well, actually, in all the medical marijuana states, it's not a prescription. It's a recommendation.
No, this is how they handle it here.
Yeah.
You apply. They send you a packet. Your doctor fills it out. It goes before a review board. They have 30 days to meet one of their seven conditions.
Right.
Then they issue you a license.
Right. My point was, though, that there are no federal prescriptions for marijuana in any of the states. They're always.
Well, when I lived in Sacramento, California, that's what was required. You just had to have a prescription.
Yeah.
I called to make sure. I called the head of the State Department of Health in Santa Fe and asked Melissa Milam that question, and she said that a prescription's not required, but that marijuana is not considered a controlled substance. So if they think they're being slick, Oxycontin is, Valium, these types of things are
absolutely
considered controlled substance.
So you're still in your apartment at this point?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. And how do your lawyers feel about the case? They feel like they've got a good case here that's going to be easy to win?
I think it's a good case, and they're thinking that maybe this corporation hoping that they might want to settle out of court.
Yeah.
So I don't know which direction this is going to go yet.
Well, I would think they would probably go toward the settle out of court because there's not much good PR value in kicking out a paralyzed woman in a wheelchair shortly before the Christmas holidays. I can't see anybody in their right mind wanting to take that to court.
Well, my attorney called Mr. Totten in Scottsdale, Arizona. He's a real smooth operator, and he was like, "Oh, we wouldn't be that cold-hearted," and da-da-da-da.
Sure.
Right. While I have the eviction notice. Like,
yeah.
Right, so.
Well, Bobby, I'll let you know that, you got supporters in Bozeman, Montana, and now through the Russ Belville Show, you're going to have supporters all around the world. We're heard we get listeners as far away as Japan. So
I can't believe it.
Yeah, the whole world's going to know your story, and believe me, this is going to happen.
Really trying to get a hold of it.
This is really going to have a positive effect for some other people, because other landlords are going to hear about this story, and they're either going to have to come up with a policy. If they're in one of the 12 states, they're going to have to come up with a policy that fairly treats the people that are using cannabis as medicine. This is ridiculous. You can't kick people out for you can't evict someone for using Percocet. Why should you evict someone for using cannabis? It makes no sense.
Right. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak on your show, and I'd like to thank everyone out there for their support as well.
Oh, thank you, Bobby. We appreciate that. And Bobby Wooten from New Mexico, everybody. This another one of these stories that these percolate up, and a lot of people don't follow them if they're not into the whole medical marijuana movement as deeply as I am. And I don't want to make the show completely about marijuana. I'm not trying to do that, but these stories need to be told, especially, like I said, with the economic crisis that we've got going on now. There's just no reason that we shouldn't start looking at some more alternative ways of dealing with this issue. The taxing and regulation of cannabis for adults could bring in $10 to $14 billion a year into state and local coffers, as far as being able to save the money on the prosecutions and to raise the money on the taxes. This war on drugs is something I believe the next administration really needs to look at and make a big change if they're really serious about cutting back on government waste. I'm Radical Russ. Thank you for sticking with us. We got one more segment to go. We're going to get to your listener emails at radicalruss@gmail.com and a couple of stories in the free-for-all. Stay tuned. It's the Russ Belville Show.
Hello, I'm Paul Stanford from the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF. Medical marijuana is legal in 12 states today, and THCF has medical clinics in 6 of those states. Our physicians help qualified patients obtain an authorization for medical marijuana in their state. Patients are eligible for medical marijuana with a history of either severe chronic pain and or nausea, cancer, AIDS or HIV, hepatitis, glaucoma, seizure disorders like epilepsy, chronic muscle spasms as in multiple sclerosis or asthma, neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer's, and gastrointestinal disorders like IBS or Crohn's disease. If you or someone you know has one of these conditions, our doctors will help them obtain a permit for medical marijuana. THCF Medical Clinics has offices in Washington State, Oregon, Colorado, Nevada, Hawaii, and California. Call 1-800-723-0188 or go to the web at www.hemp.org or 1-800-723-0188.
Georgia. Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Our marijuana laws are terribly unfair, and they make criminals out of law-abiding citizens. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges, and we are unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They are average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. And it's time we stopped arresting responsible marijuana smokers. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Coast to coast, from Shoshone to Sierra, White Mountain to Davy Crockett. They're more than our national forests, they are national treasures. But they are being devastated by fire as never before. The Arbor Day Foundation asks for your help in replanting our national forests to help restore their life-giving benefits and awe-inspiring splendor. Visit arborday.org. See what we're doing. See how you can help.
Here's a tip to lower your energy bills. Change a light. Just change one old-fashioned light bulb at home to one with the Energy Star label. Your new light will use 75% less energy, save money, and last for years. For more information, contact your local electric utility or go online to EnergyStar.gov and take the Change a Light pledge to join others changing the world one light at a time.
Continue the conversation with Radical Russ online. Visit radicalruss.com and email radicalruss@gmail.com.
Everybody, science!
Science!
Oh, I can't wait to have a president who believes in science again. Won't that be swell?
I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, 51 after the hour here. We're back at the last segment of the Radical Russ Show, and before we go on, Stevie had someone he had to give a shout out to. I believe.
I got to give a little shout out to one of our top little radicals out there, Portia Perkins, who has been communicating with me. She wanted to know what this song was that we play for the email segment, and it is Thomas Dolby, She Blinded Me with Science.
That's right. Thomas Dolby. Good heavens, Miss Sakamoto. You're beautiful.
You're beautiful. I said we'd play a little bit extra for her today, so we're going to let it run. And Portia, keep listening. We love you.
Yeah, that one's
Thank
for you,
so
Portia.
much. Absolutely.
Also,
here's a big science for you. Science!
Yeah. Now, speaking of our friends of the show, radical friends of the show, let's go to the phone lines where we've got Dave in Chicago hanging on the line. Dave, welcome back.
Radical Russ, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, my man?
Okay, judging from your show today, I got to vote for John McCain.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's look at it, logically. You got all these financial investigations going on.
Yeah.
Okay, the FBI needs agents to take a look at these financial prosecutions, so on and so forth.
Right.
John McCain's campaign managers are financial lobbyists who are responsible for a large majority of promoting this law breaking. So the Republican Party putting people back to work one financial investigator at a time, my friend. John McCain is putting more people to work, and he's not even in the Oval Office yet. So
he's definitely put that makeup artist from Dancing with the Stars in business, hasn't he?
Oh, I forgot about that guy too.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think about this Ashley Todd? Acted alone, or did someone put her up to it?
Boy, for those of you that haven't followed this Ashley Todd thing, this is that young woman who claimed that she was at the ATM. The big black guy beat her up, and then when he found out she had a McCain sticker on her car, he carved a B into her face in reverse. Like if you were looking in a mirror, it would look right. But yeah, what do I think about that? Well, wow. I can't say for sure whether or not she acted alone or someone put her up to it, but what we can say for sure is after the case was, after the claim was made that the McCain campaign was all over it trying to promote it to the press. We can point out that they were, definitely hyping the story. Did she do it alone? Maybe. God, people out there these days, I've been watching, as I've been, preparing for the shows, Dave, I watch all these clips on YouTube of the people outside the McCain rallies. So after sitting through about 15 minutes worth of them, I can believe anything out of these people.
There you go. If it was me and somebody wanted me to do something like that, I'd have a price. And it would be around $150,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well done. Well said, Dave. Yeah, this is something too that in this story popping up that is something about our culture that I think is really sick, and I'm hoping the election of Obama can help to heal this somehow. But this this turning to the big black boogeyman story. You remember when Susan Smith, you remember that Susan Smith woman? I think she was South Carolina, 2 kids, and she put them in the car and pushed them into the lake and let them drown. And her initial story was that she got carjacked by a big black guy and stole her kids. You know, this kind of racism that just infects our country, and it's just so deeply ingrained sometimes. I just wonder, I mean, do you have a hope out there that maybe we're turning a corner here? Maybe with the election of Barack Obama, we're turning a corner? Or is it possible that, you know, once Barack's in office, that it's just going to inflame? It's going to get worse. It's going to, all these, because this is something I don't think a lot of people are thinking of, is that these guys at these McCain rallies, the ones that are chanting socialist and calling him a monkey and saying he's a Muslim and he's a terrorist and all that, they're not going anywhere after November 4th, people. They're going to be here with us. We're going to have a reasonable segment, a decently sized segment of our population that truly believes in their heart of hearts that we've just elected a Muslim terrorist to live in the White House. How are we going to get them past that? How are we going to deal with those people that have these attitudes? I'm really scared. There's so much hope right now. Everybody's smoking hope. There's so much hope out there for the new administration coming in and George W. Bush finally leaving office. There's so much hope out there that I hope people don't get their hopes up too much, because we got some huge problems to deal with, folks. We got 2 wars going on, 3 if you count the war on drugs. We've got the financial crisis to deal with. Our health care is in shambles. Our manufacturing base is decimated. This is going to be a long, hard climb out. And sometimes I wonder if the Republicans haven't seen this coming. You know, one of the old sayings is that, Democrats are playing checkers while Republicans are playing chess. This is something I've heard over the past 8 years when they're talking about Karl Rove and all their antics that they pull. And so I wonder if the Republicans hadn't just seen the handwriting on the wall this year, the people at the top of the party hadn't seen the handwriting on the wall and realized that no matter who was president in 2008, it was going to be disastrous for the country, just because of all the terrible, the way they've mortgaged our future and hijacked all our kids for the war and all that no matter who came into office, it was going to be awful. So maybe their plan, maybe their thought here was, well, it's going to be a Democratic Senate, and it's going to be a Democratic House. Let's just let the Democrat get elected so that it's all Democrats. And so when all the terrible, awful bills to pay come due through 2008, 09, 2010, 2011, we can blame it all on Democrats. See, Democrats were completely in charge and everything was really, really bad. And then they come back in 2012 with, the Mike Huckabee, Sarah Palin ticket or something. That's kind of what I'm...
It's like, it's funny because I had exactly the same thought recently. It's like if you go to an eviction party or something, you know you're going to leave, so you trash the place, except they've thrown up on the entire country.
That's a really succinct way to put it. I hadn't thought of it. An eviction, the George W. Bush eviction party is on.
Hamburger or hot dog, your choice.
Oh, my God. Well, folks, we're going to be sticking our way through it here and trying to help everybody make it through. This is what we're all about here at the Russ Belville Show, is talking for the little guy, talking for the average working class people that are working hard for a living, and we enjoy doing it every weekend. We're here every weekend, this channel, this same time. You can check us out on the web at radicalruss.com. Please check it out. I've got video up there from my speech at the Artists for Obama rally this last Monday that I really enjoyed. And for everyone else out there, send me an email, radicalruss@gmail.com. We'll see you next weekend for the last show before the election. Peace.
And that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing when you're feeling in the dumps